whites who are trying to solve the problem. But you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox. And a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to. But the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling.
My philosophy is much more libertarianism than
well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that, he's a libertarian.
Well, always has been. Because how do we call a liberal? You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism. And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation. Well, isn't this the liberal philosophy? The conservative, so-called, is the one that says, less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Until recently, to most Americans, the spectrum of legitimate political discourse revolved around two ideological poles, liberalism and conservatism. Indeed, over the course of the 50-plus year counterrevolution that began with the destruction of the radicalism of '68, liberal emerged as a slur on the political right. Even the Democratic Party, the institutional manifestation of the left flank of capital, seemed to shy away from the term liberal, as the notion that the United States was fundamentally a center-right country came to be the naturalized common sense amongst the beltway establishment. However, with the development of a vocal, albeit political feeble, social democratic movement over the last 50 years, liberalism is facing challenges from the left. Indeed, today when someone utilizes the term lib in a derisive manner, it is often from the perspective that liberalism represents a rightist ideology. At the same time, elements of the conservative movement, in particular those who advocate free market orthodoxy and bloviate endlessly about phantasmic threats to free speech, have sought to recast themselves as classical liberals. Yet many Americans remain fundamentally ignorant of the complex historical relationship between liberalism and socialism. What is the relationship between these two ideological trends of the so-called left? How did these tendencies relate to one another historically? And are they mortal enemies or embittered kin? We'll ask these questions and more. This is Revolution.
The labels liberal and conservative used to mean something fairly clear. A liberal used to mean somebody who believed in the individual, who believed in the free market, who believed that you should break down all the barriers toward individual self-expression. If this meant destroying the church or weakening the power of parents within their family, destroying social classes, all sorts of conventions, this is what liberals were in favor of. What conservatives were interested in doing were preserving a kind of cultural order, preserving a tradition, preserving a sense of sacredness. Even if they weren't particularly religious themselves, they had to preserve that sense of the sacred. And what happened in the 1940s and 50s is that conservatism got defined as what used to be called liberal. In other words, the free market is everything, individual is everything, forget family, forget everything, essentially. But the marketplace and the defense of the nation, because the old liberals were also great colonialists, and the people who called themselves liberals were in fact socialists, or worse, And what was somebody with something like a conservative worldview going to do? There was no place. There was no label. There was no party. There was no movement. And it's like conservative environmentalists today. The greatest environmental thinker, the most powerful philosopher of conservation today is Wendell Berry, who is a conservative. He lives off in his little farm in rural Kentucky. He writes these books about how managing his own little family farm. He's a Christian, he's a traditionalist, but he's on the board of the Sierra Club. Why? Because there's no conservative organization that would welcome Wendell Berry. They think he's the devil incarnate. And that in a nutshell is the failure of American conservatism. Not to make a place for the real social and cultural and moral conservatives who have surfaced from it.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out. You can catch the live stream of This Is Revolution every Tuesday through Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. This is Revolution.